What is up, guys? This is the ViperStealth. Thank you very much for tuning into this video. Thank you for watching the first part of the video, which was just a context, a context setting for my build and why it works in heroic and does extreme amounts of damage. I feel it's important to have that intro because it just sets the context of the build, and also I get a few people asking me whether my builds work against heroic enemies and have all sorts of questions about whether the damage is really that high. So there you go, that's what that's about. If you do enjoy my videos, please like and subscribe for more videos in the future like this, but let's not keep you waiting any longer. Let's crack straight on into the build. So I'm going to go through this in different categories. First, I'm going to talk about skill procs, the cooldowns. Then I'm going to talk about the seeker damage that I'm doing, and then just about the BTSU gloves and the role that that plays in the build. So let's get straight into it. The 4-piece hardwired, it's important to get 4-piece of hardwired, and it's also important to get it in this combination: the mask, vest, holster and knees. I've seen a couple of big YouTubers share builds where I think, in my opinion, they've done it incorrectly. They've put a bag as hardwired, or they've used the gloves as hardwired, and as I explain my build, I'll explain why it's really important that you don't do that. You go for knees hardwired and these 3 hardwired. So let's get straight into it. First thing I'm going to talk about, and probably the reason why you tapped on this video, was either the extreme damage I'm doing or the extreme cooldowns that I'm doing. I'm going to cover the fast cooldowns first and then go into the damage after. So the cooldown is set by a few things on this build. It's not just a hardwired, which is fantastic in itself. So if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, Title Update 6 requires that you have only 4 pieces to unlock the last ability on the gear sets. So we've got feedback loop with only 4 pieces of hardwired. So it's got a 15-second cooldown in that this can only occur every 15 seconds once, but if any of my skills get a kill, it instantly cools down the other skill. So already hardwired, every 15 seconds is guaranteeing me, as long as my skills get a kill, an instant skill cooldown. So I'm very happy with that. Next up, this is minor, but on my gun I've got a talent of in rhythm. So once every 60 seconds, any kill that I get has a 5% chance to refresh active cooldowns. So that helps a little bit in that sense. Lastly, but definitely not least important, is the bag, and this is why you don't want to put hardwired on the gloves or the bag. The bag gives me access to skilled. Now I do have a really nice bag here which has loads of skill power, loads of skill haste. It is also out, so it gives me 20% skill haste. It's got perfect tech support and destructive. It's a god roll bag. Why don't I use it? Well, it's incredibly important to go for this build setup for the skill cooldowns. So skilled is actually, in my opinion, more important than tech support. So with that setup, yes, I could do more damage, but I wouldn't get the instant skill cooldowns, and I'm already doing a significant amount of damage to the enemies. So with skilled, you get every skill kill that you get, you've got a 25% chance to reset all skill cooldowns. So that's absolutely huge. There's no cooldown on that. I can just use it all the time, and that's significantly helping me. So if you consider in rhythm, skilled and hardwired all working together, that gives me seekers galore, as loads and loads of seekers. Let's just say on the off chance that that doesn't work, I've also got my hive working for me. I've got the hive with crazy mods here. I've got really high damage, I've got loads of charges, and I've also got an insane radius. The radius is 60 meters, like the range, so it's absolutely phenomenal. If this gets me a kill, there's a very, very high chance that it's going to cool down my seekers. So I've got my hive working for me as well. So that is how I'm getting really fast skill cooldowns. So next up is the damage. So damage on this build, I've spec'd pretty much into the seekers, and how I get all of this damage is a couple of things. The first thing, because I'm getting such fast skill cooldowns with my loadout, I'm able to spec into damage on the mines. So normally with the mines, I go damage, I go +6 mines, and I also go skill haste. I don't need the skill haste, so I'm able to spec into 2 damage mods. So I've got 97.6% and 93.1%. And why this is important is because it gives me 611,000 base damage per mine. So that's actually insane. I've got 9 mines that go out. So how I'm doing a huge amount of damage is firstly that. Secondly, I've got recharged. So this gives me 25% more charges if I'm at full armor. So if you want to stay at the back and throw your mines in over the top, then you can do that. You'll get 25% more mines that do even more damage against more enemies. So that's brilliant in itself. You get into cover and you can proc rooted, and that does 25% more skill damage, so that stacks up massively. And then lastly, on both of the guns here, I've got Spike enabled, and Spike is a really important skill talent to have. Its headshot kills give 35% more skill damage for 20 seconds. And lastly, but again not least important, is the BTSU gloves. If you've ever seen a hardwired build recommended to you and they don't have the BTSU gloves on them, they've got to have a damn good reason as to why they don't have them on, because this gives you a phenomenal amount of damage more. So the thing that is doing it, the talent that is really boosting you up, is the energy infusion. So with the BTSU gloves, you've got to infuse them. You've got to set a status effect onto an enemy, and then once that's done, the gloves go from blue that you can see now on the left to red, and that means you're doing a lot more damage. So what it says is, while infused, you gain 10% more skill damage for every yellow attribute you have in your build. Now you can see on the left near my stats that I've got 15 yellow attributes. So when my gloves are infused, I get 150% more skill damage, which is, I think, insane. Put on top of that the fact that we've got destructive on my bag, 40% extra explosive damage. You can see that this is really stacking up nicely. So I throw my hive in and that sets my BTSU gloves off, because the hive since TU6 gives a bleed status effect onto enemies. I've got double damage mod set up on my mines. I've got rooted here, I've got spiked kicking in, I've got the BTSU gloves, and the explosive damage for my mines is just going absolutely through the roof. So that's how I'm able to do so much explosive damage with my Seekers. And just a small thing which I've not mentioned, which is also important, is you really want to farm for yellow attribute mods that give explosive damage. So I'm going to very quickly take you through my mods. I've got 4.5% explosive damage on that utility mod. On this one, it's very much the same story. I've got 4.5 again there. I've got 2 mods on my holster, which is amazing. So I've got 4.5% explosive damage and 5% explosive damage. On my knees, same story there. I've also got 4.5% explosive damage. And then lastly, on my gloves, I've got 2 mods, and this is explosive damage and explosive damage again, 4.5 and 4%. So all of this also stacks up, and I'm doing crazy damage to the enemy. So a couple of other things I want to talk about in this build. One minor thing is, I always get a question, this build, it's very good being a skill build, but what do you do in heroic missions when you're up against the BTSU and they throw in a load of EMP? Well, look, that's absolutely fine. The amount of specialization ammo I get from my explosive kills is through the roof. So then it's time to whip out my specialization rocket launcher and I just go blasting for a few seconds. And I can also get a bit trigger happy with my EMP grenades and just throw them around at various warhounds and what have you, just to slow down the action while I'm suffering the EMP effect. But this build, it works perfectly against BTS, against the kind of Black Tusk enemies and missions, so don't worry about that. It's definitely viable. And the last thing that I need to cover in this video is the healing. So as soon as title update 6 rolled around, and in fact even before then in title update 5, it was my mission to come up with a build that had all of this, that set a status effect, that had deadly mines, but also had healing. And no matter how much I tried to play around with it, I couldn't really get all 3. So for example, I couldn't have a chem launcher, Seekers, and something that set a status effect. So I was getting quite frustrated. I was thinking, surely there's got to be a way to do it. I didn't want to put patience on my knees, because it was really important that I had my knees. I've sort of calculated that helps with skill cooldowns. When title update 6, I had to use them for hardwired to get the hardwired benefit. So I finally cracked it when I realized that blue mods on gear can give you armor on kill. So you can see here I've got 4,000 on my knees. I've got another 2,900, which is really nice, and on my gloves I've also got 3,800. So for every enemy I kill, and trust me, as you've seen in the intro video, I kill a lot, I get around 10,000, 12,000 armor on kill. So if I throw my Seekers down and 11 mines go out and they're doing 1,000,000+ damage, and I get 12,000 armor every person I kill, I'm healing significantly. I'm healing like 100 to 130,000 armor every time I throw a set of mines out, which is pretty much all the time. So this build is absolutely insane. It's extremely fast cooldowns, extremely high seeker damage, and it also has healing. I wouldn't say it's a PvP build, but if you want to play PvE and that's your thing, and you also want to clear PvE content really quickly, maybe you're farming for something, you cannot do better than this build. It's min-maxed, it's gorgeous. I know some people in the comments will point out that I've got 4,394 skill power. I've modded everything in my loadout for skill haste. You can see there that skill haste. The only thing I haven't is my vest, and I need that for the vast amount of skill power that I've got here. It's God roll, and everything else is modded towards skill haste. So those comments, you know, I know you mean well, but I've already skilled out everything for skill haste and not skill power except my vest, and that was intentional. The reason why my skill power is so high is because I've fully maxed out the technician specialization. I naturally get a lot of skill power. So this build is absolutely phenomenal. Do try it. Do try and get the pieces. It's absolutely fun to play, and it will just blast you through missions, and it's so much fun. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Have a fantastic day. Thank you very much.